along a little better.
Yeah,
Oh
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're live, Quartz.
I'm waiting for it to refresh, and yes, we are back live. Yeah, we are
Awesome.
back live. This time, hopefully, we're both live on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So, um, anyone who's just joining in on YouTube, we do have the giveaway. So, use exclamation mark enter on YouTube as well to see if that went through. But we're back, guys, and we're going to be joined by Polymers. Justin, are you going to be able to pull up the first team for us to review for tonight?
Yeah. So just wanted to introduce the roster archetype. So we try to write those in our meta write-ups. I have a section dedicated to that, and here, we had to revisit it because Wigglytuff actually reframed a lot of the conventional roles that were defined in the early meta because of the promotion of poison types and steel types within certain defined roles. And so here we're going to start today with some Wigglytuff teams just because it seems fitting to jump right into some of those, see what coverages those provide, and then we'll move down. So just to quickly go through the archetype, Vigoroth is, still seems like a very required spot, but Wigglytuff does not seem required, although it does provide some advantages. Grass Poison seems to be very necessary as it counters both Vigoroth and Wigglytuff. And then it's important to have a grass and a bug poison counter, so that would be either Noctowl or Fortress. So we'll see some teams that either you run Fortress over Noctowl, or some that actually run both of them with Fortress in the flex. And then the last two spots are going to be Vigoroth counter and then Electric. And so we can get into some of those a little bit later. But the flex spot is one where, and this is where we're kind of grouping the teams for tonight's team review, is those that are choosing to run Wigglytuff in that flex spot, those that are choosing to maybe run double Electric, or maybe run double Vigoroth counter.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the double Electric is definitely down, but we'll see if it continues to be popular. There were quite a few double Electrics last time around we did this, right?
Yeah, and then there's actually a surprising number today too.
Yeah.
So
It's
which
also that,
so the first category was going to be with the Wigglytuff, yes? Do you have specifically
Yes.
a team that we are looking at right now?
Yeah, so we can start with Ye Olde English 22's team.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Victreebel, Lantern, and Wigglytuff. So here they're choosing to run the Wigglytuff in the flex spot. They have Beedrill as that hard Vigoroth counter, as well as Victreebel, and then Noctowl as their sort of anti-grass, anti-bug. Lantern is, a really good Electric to have. I think an interesting thing here is you were talking a little bit about Venusaur. AJ, what are your thoughts in the sort of Victreebel Venusaur comparison?
I think Victreebel is a little bit less predictable, for sure. You don't know if it's going to be Sludge Bomb, which hits really hard with such an attack-weighted mon like Bell. Whereas Venusaur is very predictable. It's going to be Frenzy Plant and Sludge Bomb paired most likely with Vine Whip. Whereas Victreebel is definitely going to be Razor Leaf, but you don't know if it's going to be Sludge Bomb or Acid Spray. And most people run Leaf Blade, but I could see a Sludge Bomb Acid Spray being viable here, just in a sense to give it even less predictability. You're going to lose some matchups in some cases, but Razor Leaf puts in so much damage against its favorable matchups. So I could see some play for Acid Spray, and being able to just hit Acid Spray against like a Noctowl or something, you're still going to lose that match, but at least you render it even more useless against whatever comes in next.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing about this team comp is, it does look a little weak to Venomoth. I think that's a potential issue of running Beedrill as that bug poison is you open yourself up to Venomoth, which is the bug poison that can win that head to head. And then it's also able to beat Wigglytuff and Vigoroth. But you do have Noctowl and Lantern here for it, so.
Although Lantern, I mean, it's not a bad matchup against Lantern either. If it lands a Silver Wind, it's not a good situation for Lantern. Neither of them really wants to be in that matchup.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think a Venomoth there would probably be a strict upgrade. Maybe even a Fortress. Well, Fortress, you'd be losing that counter to Vigoroth, so you wouldn't want to be doing that. But what do you think about a Venomoth for a Beedrill?
I think that would definitely help. Just help you a little bit against. I'm also saying, like it's also pretty weak to Beedrill. So Venomoth would definitely help there, giving an edge against an opposing Beedrill, rather than being forced with a mirror. Yeah, because Beedrill also beats Lantern, right? So Beedrill really beats 4 out of 6, and then has the mirror. So
yeah, it's not a bad team by any stretch, but you might be in a situation where Venomoth has just too many favorable matchups. So it's is something that you'd have to be playing around, and hopefully lock it in with that Noctowl. If Noctowl is able to get that Venomoth out, you have a pretty good situation in that you have. Well, it depends on the rest of his comp, right? But that would be your play, is to hopefully try to lock in Noctowl against Venomoth.
Yeah, I think potentially switching Wigglytuff to maybe a Fortress might help shore up some of those bug poison matchups. If they really like Wigglytuff and they don't have access to like a Dustox or a Venomoth to substitute for that Beedrill, then even maybe going Magnezone for Lantern would at least help against the Beedrill matchup. That way, at least you have another option against Beedrill.
Someone said in chat that the team is Noctowl weak. I disagree. I think Wigglytuff, Lantern, Vigoroth all counter Noctowl, and then you have Noctowl for the mirror. He might be reading the one on screen though. Well, even the one on screen is fine. But yeah, so that's mainly is that Noctowl is not necessarily a hole in this team. So I think that's our advice, right? If you have a Legacy Venomoth, definitely swap it for the Beedrill. And I think we can move on to the next, right?
Yep. So the next one is going to be Carefree's team.
Okay.
So this one is very similar. It's just instead of a Victreebel, we have Venusaur. And then instead of Lantern, we have Alolan Graveler.
Well, I'm trying to find holes that open up from swapping a Lantern to an Alolan Graveler.
Right.
So, off the bat, you're pretty well off against a Noctowl, for sure. You have a hard counter. You have Vigoroth and Wigglytuff doing just fine against it. And then you have Noctowl itself, and at least Noctowl isn't able to farm against Beedrill.
Right.
I think Fortress would give this team some trouble, perhaps. You still have Vigoroth and Noctowl, but Fortress has excellent matchups against Beedrill and Venusaur, right? And also Wigglytuff. And it's not a horrible matchup against Graveler.
Yeah.
So something to work around, not necessarily a deal breaker.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. You're also, maybe a little bit weaker to like a Wigglytuff, just because you have one less answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
Vigoroth is, a really close matchup though, so I wouldn't count that as, like a hard loss. And
Mhm.
and then you do also have the mirror, but
Mhm.
generally that's why I think Lantern and Magnezone and Magneton sort of see a rise in usage in this newer meta over Alolan Graveler, which really looked like it was solidifying itself as maybe the best electric in the old meta.
Yeah, although Lantern was still overperforming in
Definitely.
most winning teams, so that's
Right.
something to consider. One mention was about Venomoth. I think the thing that is being shored up in the Venomoth matchup against this team is that Alolan Graveler definitely takes care of it. And then you also have Noctowl, which the previous team had it as well. So you have like two very, very decent answers against Venomoth, as opposed to Lantern being sort of a check, and then
Right.
Graveler being like a straight up counter. So I wouldn't be too worried about a Venomoth because it's definitely playable. And Noctowl Graveler have different matchups, so you're not overlapping too much there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And we do
And
have
then-
another question on YouTube about would it be wise to run both Legacy Venomoth and Beedrill on the same team?
I don't think so. I'd let Justin jump in. I think there's just way too much overlap. They shore up some matchups against each other, but I think Venomoth is almost a strict upgrade to Beedrill, save for the Lantern matchup, right?
Yeah, I think the Lantern matchup is what really helps Beedrill find a niche here. If you're kind of looking at your team comp and you're thinking you need a little bit more coverage against Lantern, and you don't mind losing that Bug Poison head to head, then going Beedrill is definitely a solid option. And then also some people don't have the Legacy option, and Dustox is quite expensive, so that's another big reason to build around Beedrill.
There's a question on YouTube as well about the preferred moveset on Beedrill. That's actually a little bit up for discussion. I think most people will tell you X Scissor, Sludge Bomb. Everybody will tell you Sludge Bomb. And then some people might tell you Aerial Ace, Sludge Bomb. Because Aerial Ace picks up a winning matchup against Beedrill, a slightly better matchup against the Bug Flyers, which have gone down in popularity, and a better matchup against anything that's really bug. So like Venomoth, Dustox, you can actually beat it in some cases, whereas before I didn't even have to shield. So
Right.
it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, Aerial Ace, the one that it does, or a couple matchups that it does hurt, is Alolan Raichu, which is less relevant now. And then the other big one that's still quite meta relevant is against Magnezone and Magneton, because now both your charge moves are double resisted. So you just have less of an answer in like a bad matchup to get out of there with doing some chip damage.
Hey Quartz, we're getting some feedback about the music. Maybe lower the music volume. They're saying it's a bit loud compared to our voices. Thanks for the feedback, you guys. All right, so any parting recommendations for this team, you think?
I mean, it seems they're not weak. They're not overly weak to anything, I don't think. But that's the interesting thing, right, about Jungle Cup. And I think it's Smogon Devo pointed this out in his recent write-up and video, is that Wigglytuff really did provide a lot of balance to the meta as an option against Noctowl, Vigoroth, and just really shaking things up. And it really seems like Jungle was already a pretty balanced cup, but I think Wigglytuff provides even more balance. And it's hard not to be weak to something. You just gotta find what you're okay being weak to.
Right, for sure. And yeah, I think Beedrill, if anything, pairs better with Alolan Graveler than Venomoth does, because of the better matchup against Lantern. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, what else do we got?
So the next one is going to be Tema G84. Hope I'm saying that right.
Okay.
So this is another Wiggly team. So Vigoroth, Noctowl, Wigglytuff again, and Alolan Graveler as well. And then the two differences here are Venusaur to Roserade. and Beedrill to Heracross.
Yeah. Well, off the bat, Roserade is gonna perform on average a little bit worse than some of your other, like Victreebel, for example. But it's definitely gonna raise some eyebrows, and people might not be as well, definitely won't be as familiar with those matchups. So if you are, that's an advantage to you. I think it's gonna perform largely similar to Victreebel because it's an attack weighted mon that uses Razor Leaf primarily.
Right. And I mean, I would. So my first, like, just quick recommendation is if they really wanted to use a Razor Leafer, I'd really try to get a Victreebel if you can, because having that Leaf Blade option as a charge move is really big compared to Grass Knot, which just takes much longer to charge. And as a Razor Leaf user, you kind of do need that quick hitting charge move to apply even a little bit of shield pressure.
Mm-hmm. So the problem I see with this team is you're going to be relying a lot on Roserade to take out an enemy Wigglytuff.
Yep.
You have the mirror, you have Vigoroth, but Vigoroth is not a sure thing, and you don't want to be relying on Vigoroth. And Vigoroth is just so good as a mid-game pivot or a safe switch or whatever that wasting it always as a counter to Wigglytuff is not going to go well on average.
Right.
So I think you're going to be relying too much on Roserade against a Wigglytuff team. And Heracross isn't doing any favors in that respect.
Yeah.
So I think a swap for Heracross would be adequate here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think going Bug Poison for Heracross would be good. I mean, I don't want to completely rule out Heracross, despite it, just getting, obliterated by Wigglytuff. It does have some, still valuable matchups as a really hard Vigoroth counter, and it's able to beat, the Electrics and Venusaur as well. So it has some good matchups. I just think this probably isn't the best team comp. If they were set on keeping Heracross, I think you definitely have to change your Electric to one that countered Wigglytuff as well, like to your earlier point. But even then, I'm trying to see if there's like any other.
Like a Magneton or a Magnezone, perhaps?
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. It's an interesting pick, Roserade. But a seasoned player, I think, is going to be okay dealing with it. So it's not going to be that much of a wild card, as opposed to something like maybe Cradily or Maldo. I'm not advocating for those. I'm just saying, like, those have weirder matchups than Roserade, which fits pretty much as a standard Razor Leafer, with a poison subtyping.
Yeah, and it looks like we had a question in chat about Blossom, since we're on the subject of like alternative Razor Leafers.
Yeah.
So
Blossom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say Blossom, isn't going to have that poison subtyping, which is kind of what we're looking for. That's kind of what Wigglytuff has brought into the meta. It is bulky, so it can definitely, it's not a hard loss in that matchup, even without the poison subtyping. And it does have access to Leaf Blade, which I assume is another reason why it was brought up in chat. So I mean, it was definitely a good thought, but I think the poison subtyping just really kind of hurts it overall. It's not going to resist counter as well without that typing. So I think Victreebel is definitely the best Razor Leafer here.
Yeah, I agree. What else do we have?
So next we have Nerficus. Hope that's right.
What did you call me?
Nerficus is the team.
Nerficus. Okay, cool.
Nerficus. Yeah, so it's Vigoroth, Beedrill, Scizor, and then Venusaur, Wigglytuff, Lantern. So this one I included it in the sort of Wigglytuff team group, but these next two swap out Noctowl for either Scissor or Fortress.
Mm-hmm. Scissor hasn't been performing as well as Fortress in my scrims against people that like to bring it as sort of like a Fortress sub. You know, it does have those bullet punch as opposed to bug bite, and that does super effective stab against Wigglytuff. That said, I don't know that that's so much of an upgrade compared to Fortress, which has just such great coverage with that Earthquake nuke. Heavy Slam is very good DPE, and then Bug Bite does fine against a lot of things here. So, I don't know. I'm not convinced on Scissor, but it's definitely an interesting pick, and people are going to be a lot less familiar with Scissor. But it loses much more handily to Lantern, which is going to be a concern.
Yeah, it's not as bulky as Fortress, which could be a problem as well. And then, but one thing that is interesting about Scissor is it's pretty much just Bullet Punch Scissor and then Razor Leafers that can really take out Wigglytuff, even at O2 shield disadvantage.
Yeah.
So that Bullet Punch can allow Scissor to basically turn the Wigglytuff matchup into more of a farming situation potentially. Whereas Fortress really needs to land that heavy slam.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting, but generally it's not going to perform as well as Fortress, as you mentioned, against Lantern specifically.
Yeah, like how much do you really need to humiliate a Wigglytuff in your team, as opposed to getting all that good coverage that Fortress has? Right. Again, this is an example of off meta. Scissor is definitely off meta, and it has some good matchups, but you do sacrifice things by not running Fortress instead. Is this team weak to anything specifically? I think it's okay on Noctowl, because it's got those other three, in Wiggles and Lantern and Vigoroth. Seems okay balanced. I mean, Fortress might give you some trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Fortress will give you some trouble, because a Fortress at a shield advantage can beat Vigoroth. If it lands an Earthquake, it can beat Lantern, and then it's a solid win against those other four. So Fortress is going to be a problem. Not a deal breaker for this team. I mean, it's just something that you're going to have to maneuver around. Yeah. And I'm not so sure you're going to want to maneuver around this. It's just something to consider with this team composition.
And similar to the first team we started with, that was Noctowl in place of Scissor, but which was otherwise the same. This one's going to be weak to Beedrill too. Beedrill checks or counters 4, and then it has that mirror check as well. So it's really sort of, as long as you can, get this Scissor out of the way, then the Beedrill pretty much has good matchups against the rest of the team. So we kind of mentioned maybe, potentially doing the swap to one of the Moths for that Beedrill, or maybe doing like a Magnezone or something like that for the Lantern.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be pretty solid swap.
But otherwise, I think it might be a nice off-meta, team comp that maybe gets you a couple extra wins.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have?
Next is Ultimate Mayhem 5. So this one is our last of the Wigglytuff comps, I believe. This one is Vigoroth, Fortress, Victory Bell, Wigglytuff and Lantern are the same, and then Masquerain.
Right. Yeah. So Masquerain has definitely gone down quite a bit since the Wiggles introduction. with the rise of with the rise of Fortress. Well, I guess Masquerain does okay against Fortress, but Noctowl is just so much better, and Masquerain is very frail, and it loses to Wigglytuff, and it's not a sure thing against Vigoroth. So the things that have gone up in stock are not necessarily things that Masquerain beats, namely Magneton and Lantern, some of those others.
Right. And the big thing about Masquerain too is it doesn't have a charge move that Wigglytuff doesn't resist. Wigglytuff double resists that Ominous Wind and then resists the Silver Wind as well.
Yikes. Yeah, you're right. It's banking on that air slash damage.
Yeah. But this team is, covered reasonably well against Wigglytuff. It does have Fortress and Victory Bell.
So what would you bring every time against this team? Magnezone would do really well, I think.
Yeah, Magnezone could do really well.
A Magnezone would definitely beat Masquerain Fortress, in some cases Victory Bell, and Wigglytuff.
Right.
If it lands, Wild Charge still does a lot of damage against Lantern, even though it loses. And then, of course, Vigoroth is forced to shield those Wild Charge or Flash Cannons, because it does just so much damage. I'm not saying Vigoroth loses. It definitely beats Magnezone, but
yeah,
it could give you problems.
A big thing I'm seeing too is there's not a lot of, aside from Victory Bell, which is a nice hard counter against Vigoroth. Masquerain, that Vigoroth matchup is a lot closer than say like a Beedrill or Venomoth matchup against Vigoroth, and and same with Wigglytuff. So you're kind of basically stuck to where you either have to catch Vigoroth with one of those in the lead, or if someone's using Vigoroth as a safe switch, then you almost have to have Victory Bell in the back to switch in against it, because Wigglytuff and Masquerain are going to have trouble beating Vigoroth in a counter switch situation off the lead.
Yeah, you're right, man. This team is very over reliant on Victory Bell.
Yeah.
So if he brings a Vigoroth and an Alolan, probably not an Alolan, but yeah, Vigoroth basically runs free if it isn't caught by Victory Bell,
right?
Or renders Wigglytuff or Masquerain useless.
Right. Yeah, if Vigoroth has a little bit of an energy lead, then those are no longer, wins.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I can summarize a specific change without taking away too much of the personality of this team.
Yeah.
Because if you swap Masquerain for a Noctowl, you still have some of those same problems.
Right.
If you swap maybe Masquerain for a Venomoth or something, it's a very huge departure from what this team is sort of trying to accomplish.
That's the change I would make. Yeah, I see Tristan in chat, saying that too. Yeah, that's the change I would make, is switch Masquerain to another one of those harder bug or harder counters to Vigoroth, like another bug like Vespiquen or Beedrill or Venomoth. But I assume that they're running Masquerain because they want to build around that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the very early scrims with Masquerain. But man, I had to let it go.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely interesting with that boost potential for sure. But yeah, I think we've kind of seen Scyther and Masquerain sort of take a step back. Especially with Wigglytuff coming into the picture, that poison subtyping for some of those bugs really comes in handy. One thing that maybe this team could do is if they were willing to drop the Wigglytuff in that flex spot, they could maybe go with another bug poison there. And I think then you maybe start to look a little bit weak to Noctowl. So then maybe we mentioned Fortress and Noctowl having very similar coverages. So then maybe you have to go Noctowl instead of Fortress there. But I think there's a couple changes that maybe you could just play around with the lineup. It's really just sort of depends on what this person really wants to build around. If they're focused on building around Masquerain, then I think you could do, make a couple of changes to those 2 spots.
Yeah. Okay. What else do we have?
So next we have Johnny Saul NZ. This is going to be Vigoroth, Noctowl, Venusaur, Venomoth, Vespiquen, and Magnezone. So now this next group of teams that we're looking at, starting with this one, is going to be the sort of double Vigoroth counter group. Or most of these have double bugs.
Plus Venusaur?
Yes, yeah, often with Vespiquen as sort of that second bug.
Okay.
In that flex spot. Yeah, so.
Well, the risk, of course, is most Vigoroth counters, I think actually all of them, lose to Noctowl. But if you cover your bases elsewhere, then it's not going to be a big problem. With this team specifically, you're obviously covered on Vigoroth. That's a given. Perhaps... Yeah, I think this is fairly well balanced. I don't see any major glaring holes.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty balanced team. I think probably the biggest hole is going to be Lantern. Lantern can beat 4 out of the 6, and then it also gets that no shields potentially win against Vigoroth if it can land that Hydro Pump. That's definitely something you can play around though, because Vigoroth and Venusaur are very good, counters to Lantern in most situations.
And even Venomoth is okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And Vespiquen isn't awful either because it can just spam those X scissors.
Right.
And Magnezone is not horrible in that Wild Charge does a good amount of neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, you're right about Lantern and on paper.
Right. It's gonna get that. It's gonna get that one win, right? But Lantern's not gonna run through this team, I think is what we're saying, and I think that's a big point. If you're gonna have a hold of something, make sure it's not going to just discourage you from bringing, half your team, because then that really makes you predictable in terms of what 3 you're gonna bring.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So I think this is solid. We can probably move on. I like that team.
Mm-hmm. Nice team. I'm gonna write this one down.
So G Shazer. It's Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Venusaur, Vespiquen, and Magnezone. So just Beedrill for Venomoth is the only difference.
What was his username again?
GSHASER.
Oh, GS Hazer. Oh, I've seen his name pop up in previous reviews.
Yeah.
So Beedrill for Venomoth.
Yeah.
I think we've stated our opinion on this. Yeah, he's shoring up a little bit his Lantern weakness. But generally speaking, Venomoth does better. So I don't know.
Right. He's making himself a little bit better against Lantern and a little weaker to Moth, because now Moth gets 4 out of the 6 rather than 3, out of the 6 plus a mirror. But it's definitely, another solid team comp. Yeah, I think that's the main difference, though. That trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, if you were up against the mirror minus Venomoth, or minus Beedrill to Venomoth, that kind of puts you at that sort of disadvantage
Exactly. Yeah.
right there.
But against other teams that might be running Lantern, in that electric spot, then
Mhm.
you're definitely better off than probably the Venomoth team. So
Sure, that's fair.
yeah. Next team is Fineapple 3. So this one, it's a similar mold because it's within the same section, but quite a few changes actually. We have Vigoroth and Noctowl are the same, and then we have Venomoth for Beedrill,
Mm-hmm.
Weeping Bell for Venusaur, Heracross for Vespiquen, and then Alolan Golem for Magnezone.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah.
You can definitely see a lot of the symmetry between this team and the previous team, even though there's quite a few switches here.
This is definitely more balanced than the previous Heracross team. In that you have plenty of options against an enemy Wigglytuff, or you have more options. I won't say like a ton. You have Weeping Bell and Venomoth are a sure thing, or very close to a sure thing. If you play your piggybacks right with Venomoth in some shield situations. And then you have Vigoroth if it's high rank, high bulk against the low attack Wigs. It does pretty well. Weeping Bell, we're assuming here it's Razor Leaf Legacy. If not, then probably worth chucking and swapping over to Victory Bell.
Yep.
I'm trying to find some huge holes in this team.
Yeah. We're getting an assist from Tristan in the chat.
Oh, yeah?
Tristan says Venomoth and Vespi can give this team some trouble. So yeah,
Let's see, Venomoth.
Yeah, Venomoth gets 3 out of the 6, and then plus the mirror.
Well, yeah, but both Noctowl and Alolan Graveler beat those.
Right, and then you get the mirror, so that's pretty good if that's your biggest hole. That's not too bad.
Lantern, perhaps? But no, I guess you still have Weeping Bell that just destroys it, and then Vigoroth does well.
Yeah, and Heracross can get that win too.
Yeah. Yeah, Heracross Lantern isn't an awful matchup for the Heracross user. Yeah, I'm very hesitant to sign off on a Heracross team.
Right.
Right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just like looking at this with like extra caution.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is doing okay, shoring up some of those losses that Heracross has. It seems like it's almost mandatory to run like a very strong counter to the Flyers.
Right.
With a Alolan Graveler.
Yeah.
And then like strong counters to, or Alolan Golem in this case, and like strong counter to Wigglytuff with Weeping Bell and Venomoth.
Yeah. I mean,
so I think this is okay.
Yeah, potentially, along the same, about the same level as Venomoth that Tristan pointed out. Noctowl, does get 4 solid wins and then has the mirror too. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think this is not that bad of a team comp. I think that's one reason why I didn't want to rule out Heracross entirely. I think its stock has definitely fallen a lot, but this team does a decent job of building around it. I think the biggest thing though is you have to sort of think about how are you going to approach a Wigglytuff team, and I think by bringing Moth and Weeping Bell, they have 2 good answers to a Wigglytuff team. So I think they still have like 2 options that can beat both Vigoroth and Wigglytuff, and so they're not over reliant on their Heracross to be that hard counter to Vigoroth. and which sort of might get benched if they run into a Wigglytuff team. So I don't know. I think this could work.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to watch this and play.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of old meta, that can maybe take out the new meta.
Yeah.
So next we have Ramberto 777, Vigoroth, Noctowl, Venomoth. So those are all the same. And then we have Venusaur, Vespiquen, and Lantern.
Yeah, so let's see. Off the bat, Noctowl. It has some pretty good openings against this team. You still have Vigoroth and Lantern, of course. And I guess Vespiquen, if it lands a Power Gem, it still puts hurt into it. But it is something to consider, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, I was about to say Alolan, but I saw Venusaur there, so he's okay. Yeah. Maybe Wigglytuff? I don't know. You still have Venomoth and Venusaur.
Right.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, Beedrill gets 4 out of 6 here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Really just have Moth and Noctowl for Beedrill, and then Magnezone's not bad either. With just the Lantern and Vigoroth losses.
Yeah. Yeah, Magnezone is interesting because of the Venusaur matchup. Yeah. Now, those are not deal breakers. Those are just like things to work around, I think, for sure, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are, like you said, just play it, like, figure out how you would play around those, but I think this is a pretty solid team. No major holes. Yeah, and so then next we have SP3N 1337.
I think SP3N is actually on YouTube, which we're on the topic of.
Geez.
I think the giveaway is actually active on YouTube now, so if anyone here is watching on YouTube and tried to enter the giveaway earlier, if you're not sure if your entry went through or not, you can use the ! enter on YouTube as well to see if it goes through now. But yeah, let's take a look at Spin's team. Spen, is that how you would read it?
Yeah, probably. Spen. Yeah, so Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Victreebel, and then Vespiquen and Lantern again.
Well, Victreebel has some interesting matchups, and we talked about it. It's essentially the same team as Venusaur, and I think we've basically covered this team. I mean, slightly worse matchups, generally speaking, than Venusaur, but it has some play. Not sure what else to add to that, really. If I'm honest.
No, I'd agree with that. Yeah, and I think a big thing is that swap to Victreebel. For some team comps, that can make you a little too weak to Venusaur, but not with this team comp. They're well covered against Venusaur, so
yeah,
I think it's the same advice would apply to this team. All right, cool. Next, Tony R 1426.
Okay.
Vigoroth, Noctowl, Fortress, Venusaur, Vespiquen, and Lantern. So now these next 3 teams, they chose to run Fortress in that flex spot. So now we're going to see some Noctowl Fortress combo teams.
So what we're seeing, obviously, is kind of weak to Vigoroth, right? You're limited to Vespiquen or Venusaur.
Right.
And if the guy has a Wigglytuff, you don't want to be caught with your Vespiquen against it. So Venusaur might be overextended with this team, for sure. That's like a problem. A Venusaur, a Wigglytuff Vigoroth combo
Hmm.
could give you some serious trouble.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you're kind of you're kind of in a position where maybe you're definitely forced to bring like Lantern or Fortress there too, um, to potentially cover that Wigglytuff.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just not sure the double electric works so well with Lantern and Alolan rocks. Because, well, not with this team comp anyway. You open yourself up too much to Vigoroth.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lantern, or sorry, I think Fortress and Noctowl, they have a lot of overlapping coverages, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong team, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think you were saying
Yeah.
double electric or something.
Yeah, no. Sorry, my bad.
No, that's
Okay.
cool. Yeah, Fortress and Noctowl, they have a lot of overlapping coverages, but they also can provide different advantages because of some slightly different matchups. So Fortress
Mm-hmm.
does a little bit better against the electrics, and then obviously Noctowl beats Fortress head to head. And then the big one, that's really sort of at the forefront of our minds right now is that Fortress gets the Wigglytuff matchup, whereas Noctowl loses it. So I mean,
Right.
there are some subtle differences there, and so I could see running that in the flex spot. You definitely are going to be a little weaker to Vigoroth than the previous, team archetype that we just covered. But I mean, there are also some good cores in this team too, as well. I mean,
For
you
sure.
have like that Vig Noct core potentially. You have Venusaur in there as well as Fortress, which can pair well with Vigoroth, and then a team that a lot of people liked early on, and I think still has some viability, is Vespiquen, Vigoroth, and Lantern. So those are all.
Vigoroth Fortress Lantern is also really fun one
Yeah.
to use. Not in that order, but yeah.
Right. I mean, like we pointed out before with some of these other teams, 4 out of 6 here lose to Beedrill. So I think there are definitely, you just have to be able to recognize those holes and then and play around it. But I think this is a balanced enough team to where you can play around them.
Yeah. Some of these add some interesting bench pressure.
Yeah.
Like Noctowl. You might not even use it. So.
Yeah, definitely. Noctowl is one of those ones that can just be there to sort of scare away some of the bugs. Open things up for Vigoroth. I do like Vespiquen too. If you're gonna go with, the Fortress Noctowl combo, I think having a much harder Vigoroth counter is kind of important. And Vespiquen does bring that to the table, so I do like that.
For sure.
Right. So we could move on to the next team. It's Brady Shady, 6476.
My man, Brady Shady, my local apprentice here.
Yeah.
So let me intro this team.
This is actually this is actually the same team.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
bummer. Okay, well, because it's you, Brady, start over. I don't like it.
The funny thing is, Brady actually commented earlier on the live stream chat that he's actually at a convention right now. So he might not be tuning in live, but he might come back and watch it later. So
Yeah, Brady is the most rural player I've ever met. Like he sells chickens, and he goes and he travels across the, pretty much across the country, and he goes to all kinds of really cool events.
it's pretty awesome.
So
Yeah.
Someone was, well, I'll not get into it, but yeah, he's a great kid, and he got interested very early on in PvP, and it's been very interesting bouncing ideas off of him. Okay,
Like it?
so what else?
Yeah. I'm not rural, but I can definitely relate to not having house spawns. Always jealous of my friends who get house spawns.
No, this guy is at a different level of rural. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
he's got a plan. Like he's always at like 1,000 dust. You know,
Oh man.
like I've had
yeah.
to discipline him in managing his stardust, and he's gotten really good at it. And so, but you know, there's a limit to how much you can participate in cups, and
Right.
he's
yeah.
gotten good at like bluffing moves because he can't always invest in a second one. And
It's always interesting to see people who are able to, pull off some wins at, some pretty decent sized tournaments with, things that are just single moved or things like that for budget reasons.
Mhm.
But okay, cool. So JR E Seawolf's team is next. So this
Oh, not Jerry Seawolf.
this
It
is
seems pretty meta though.
very meta. Same team. Vigoroth knocked out Fortress Venusaur, and then the differences is a switch to Beedrill and Magneton.
Sure. Well, you're okay on the lantern front, which is always kind of the big thing that shouts at me when someone uses Magneton.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay on Wigglytuff. You're okay on Vigoroth-ish. You're really relying on Venusaur and Beedrill, though, in the mirror.
Right.
Magneton I've loved. It's one of my favorites to use in just great in everything. And I used it, I was holding on to it for so long, and I got so excited when Wigglytuff was announced, but it's just not like a sure thing against Wigglytuff. And Lantern just seems to do so much better. And when you have your Vigoroth eating up so many shields, I'm very hard pressed to run Magneton, which really enjoys those shields. So that's my problem right now with Magneton in this meta. That Vigoroth consumes so many shields to do well, and then bring another one of those. It's like the same problem as like Vigoroth and Wigglytuff
Right.
in the same 3. So
Yeah, Magneton though, I mean, it can be a force if it's just like Vigoroth. If it gets a little bit of an energy edge,
yeah.
like it can really flip some of those losses to wins.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable, and I love it. And I hope it's a double legacy, because Jerry likes to run like some weird off-meta stuff every now and then. But I will say this: Flash Cannon has some viability, and it picks up some wins and you wouldn't expect it, because it's not legacy, and Magnet Bomb is normally preferred.
Yeah.
But that Flash Cannon can hit so hard, and someone might be thinking, well, I can tank this Magnet Bomb here, and then it just nukes stuff. It's just at the expense of more energy.
Right, yeah.
But it did turn out during their submission of the team, they do have the Thundershock, Discharge, and Magnet Bomb lineup for the Magnet.
Oh, nice.
And that's the classic. That's the classic moveset for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think so. Tristan in chat made a point that he doesn't like that both Vigoroth counters, Vig counters lose to Venomoth. Both being poison.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair criticism. Venomoth's, Legacy Venomoth just looks to be in a really good position in this new meta.
I'm loving Legacy Venomoth. It's so much fun to use. And you can just capitalize on your knowledge if you know how to piggyback, and under tapping, over tapping, all of that stuff. Venomoth just picks up wins that people don't even expect, because they might be like sim rats, like some of us. And you see, Venomoth loses to, I don't know what, a Lantern. So and then you get in those 2 silver wins, or like you bluff you shield bait the Poison Fang, and suddenly you've turned around a matchup that should have been a loss. So that's
a big thing with Venomoth is, it's kind of like Vigoroth in that sort of that self piggyback comes into play a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can get edge out a few extra wins that don't show up initially in the Sims if you don't dive into the sandbox and see if that self piggyback is able to flip the outcome. So
Mhm.
it's definitely a really great one to have if you're lucky enough to have it. I think I think one thing that I'd say is like Fortress isn't a terrible loss to Vigoroth. It is able to do some chip damage with the bug bite and get in those heavy slams if it's able to get one through. That takes out about half of Vigoroth's health. So
Mhm.
maybe that's what I would be leaning a little bit on against a Venomoth team. Also I know definitely love getting the Legacy Magneton in there, but if they were worried about a Venomoth team, maybe going Lantern might help a little bit as another option against Vigoroth that could do reasonably well against a Venomoth.
Cool.
So next we have
Well, good job, Seawolf, for ditching Cradley where it belongs on the sidelines.
Yeah,
Alright,
we
so
have-
what do we have?
we have Mad Max YOLO Swag,
Okay.
Vigoroth Noctowl.
Just hearing you say that, Justin, is hilarious.
Vigoroth Noctowl, Vespiquen, Venusaur, Lantern, and Alolan Golem.
Hmm. Double electric.
Yeah.
Well?
Good call. Yeah. So so we're transitioning to the double electric section actually right now. We have quite a few teams in this group, and some that we can probably quickly go over because actually a lot of them run
Yeah.
the same two electrics. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how balanced these are.
I'm hard pressed to give a full rating to this team because it's so weak to Wigglytuff. You're
Mhm.
much too over reliant on Venusaur. So
Yeah.
this could be a problem for sure. So I think some changes need to be made. And I don't know how much you're attached to that double electric or the Vespiquen or whatever that you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
Some swaps could be done, but yeah, Wigglytuff is a problem.
Yeah, Wigglytuff is definitely a problem. I think that's going to be a theme throughout this section because I noticed I was actually surprised a lot of the double electrics that we got submitted are running this combo of Lantern, Alolan Graveler / Golem, and I was kind of the mindset that if you wanted to try to get away with double electrics in this new meta, I think you're going to have one of them be a Magnezone or Magneton, and then probably pair it with Lantern as well. I think
honestly, I would go further and I would say Magnezone because of the Venusaur matchup. I wouldn't recommend a Magneton with a double electric.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think having an electric that can beat that Venusaur, which is the most popular grass pick by far right now.
Yeah,
I think it is necessary.
Sure.
Even switching with this comp, I'd say even if you swap the Alolan Golem to a Magnezone, you're still a little weak to Beedrill at this point. 4 out of the 6. But that's definitely something you can try to play around.
Sure.
Yeah.
What else?
So the next team is Braj SF. I think I'm saying that right. Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Victreebel, Lantern, and Alolan Graveler.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have 2 answers to Wiggles now. Where does that open you up? I don't know.
So you're definitely a little weaker to Venusaur now with that Victory Bell in that grass spot.
Yeah.
Because you're running, the double electrics, 2 electrics that are actually weak to grass, and then and now you're running the grass that loses or that doesn't, beat all other grass in Victory Bell.
But you still have Noctowl and Beedrill.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, perhaps
Yeah,
Venusaur in this case would be a strict upgrade to this team,
right.
just because of the Venusaur matchup.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, yeah.
I really like Victory Bell, if you can work it into a team comp. I think it should honestly see more play than it's actually seeing right now, because I think it's right there with Venusaur.
Yeah.
But I think you do have to be a little careful about your team comps to make sure, that you don't have a hold of Venusaur if you decide to make that switch.
Are you running Victory Bell?
I am running Victory Bell. Yeah, that's how much I like it. Yeah.
So are you running like with Fortress or some other really hard counter to, or Venomoth, say?
Yes, I mean, I have Beedrill and Fortress both in my lineup.
Okay.
And then I also have Magnezone. So
interesting. Yeah. See, those are all good checks or straight up counters to Venusaur.
I think you kind of have to do that if you're going to run Victory Bell. You have to make sure you're short up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a switch to Magnezone might be helpful here.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah.
Or like you said,
Yeah,
maybe Venusaur. Although I think you still. Yeah. I don't know. I still kind of like Magnezone. Just to give you
Magnezone would help.
Another option against Wigglytuff. Yeah.
I think swapping like a Victory Bell for a Venusaur is a bit like it would be lazy advice on our part because there's a reason why they're using it. Like we can say it for the record, but like if someone's choosing a Victory Bell, it's probably because they prefer that Razor Leaf damage or something, or the Acid Spray or something like that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then so the next team is Chief Buddington, Vigoroth, Noctowl, Heracross, Venusaur, Lantern, and Alolan Graveler.
Yeah, damn, buddy. Way too weak to Wigglytuff, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
you're just overextending your Venusaur, I think, at that point.
Sure. Yeah, you'd have to shuffle things around. And I'm not sure which ones you're attached to, but Wigglytuff is going to be This almost seems like a team that existed okay before Wigglytuff entered the meta.
Yep.
And like this person might have submitted it before Wigglytuff was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But if not, then we were roasting you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, it's pretty, it's not... I think this is a very common team prior to the release of Charm.
Yeah.
Double Electric seemed a little bit more workable in that old meta, and then Heracross for sure was, one of the best Vigoroth counters.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do we have next? We have Shadow Cold MFG. That's Vigoroth, Noctowl, Lantern, Alolan Graveler, and then we also have Double Grass, a Sceptile, and Venusaur.
Yeah, I don't know about Double Grass, man. What is Sceptile doing that Venusaur isn't already? And when would you bring Sceptile over Venusaur?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely get the appeal of those, fast-firing charge moves. But, with that comes Sceptile's lack of bulk as well. And so, I don't see it doing a lot better than Venusaur.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not really sure.
Shadow Cold
What role?
69 said something that
Mhm.
it was his pre-Wiggly team, and he won his open qualifiers with it, minus the tiebreaker rounds.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
So-
Well done.
So that's cool, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Right now, that Sceptile Venusaur. I'd be interesting to see if you have footage, because we'd be able to see that that Sceptile in play, and we did a shoutcasting with a Sceptile centric team, and it didn't have Venusaur. So yeah, it'd be
Yeah, let's
very
see.
interesting to see videos.
Yeah, and he also said in chat, that people weren't expecting the Sceptile. So I can see that. Bringing an off meta pick like that maybe, sneaks you a couple wins. Maybe against like a bug poison or something like that, they don't shield, because they're not familiar with that aerial ace option on Sceptile.
Shadow Cold 69. Go ahead and DM us those videos. You can DM Quartz Jan on Go Stadium, or whisper him on Twitch or wherever you find it most convenient. I'd love to take a look at them maybe later off stream and see what you did, because it's very very cool that you won an open qualifier with an off meta team, or
Yeah.
an off meta mon. I think everything else there is meta, or was at the time. Cool. What else?
Yeah, so next is Jason Caruso.
Okay.
Vigoroth, Venomoth, Vespiquen, Venusaur, Lantern, Magneton. So here they opt to not have the Noctowl Fortress, and instead they're running Venomoth in that spot. That sort of grass, bug poison counter spot, which is kind of interesting, as well as the double electric.
Well, your solid answers to Lantern would be Vigoroth and Venusaur. It's not horrible in that sense. Trying to think here. What would be some openings on this team? Seems fairly well balanced. Maybe Magnezone would give it a run for its money. I think Magnezone beats Magneton.
Yep.
Beats
I like
Venomoth,
that.
beats Vespiquen, Venusaur. It's not horrible against Lantern if it lands that Wild Charge or two and with energy and forces shields on Vigoroth. So I'm not gonna say that Magnezone makes this a disclaimer, but I would kind of dread a Magnezone team using this.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think that's probably the biggest hole. You also have 4 out of 6 that lose to Beedrill, but then you have that steal and that confusion damage from Venomoth. Those two in Magneton and Venomoth are really hard counters. So I think you're pretty good there as well. It's actually a pretty interesting team comp with Venomoth in that Noctowl role, basically / Fortress role, and then the double electric to kind of help cover that Noctowl a little bit more.
I had the pleasure of playing Jason in a local Jacksonville tournament, and he's got some very stiff competition. So I'd be very interested to see how he does in his tournament, because he's got some like I'm saying, very very stiff competition, like very high level players down in that Jacksonville area. So okay,
yeah, cool. I actually kind of like this team comp. It's a little bit unique.
And the thing about the team comp, it is very familiar to a last-minute entry onto the spreadsheet. If you guys notice, Tristan sent his team in almost exactly the same as what Jason Caruso has here.
Oh,
except,
nice.
Instead of Magneton, he's running Magnezone.
So
Yeah.
he's got
Well,
that.
Tristan can get in line, and he can be reviewed next week. How about that, Tristan?
Oh wait,
Jeez.
oops.
Who do you think you are, Tristan?
Why is the team not showing up correctly though? Oh, oops. I need to update that.
Yeah, I think the Magnezone would probably be safer
There you go.
Yeah,
because you would at least have that mirror. So
yeah. I
Tristan
agree.
really likes that double electric for sure.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. I think you definitely have to build your team carefully if you're going to run double tricks now. But I like this. It works. Next is Theorist 292 with Vigoroth, Venomoth as well in that role, and then Beedrill, Scissor, Lantern, and Magnezone. Sorry, so Scissor is going to be that sort of knocked out Fortress role. And then basically they're not running Venusaur and opting for double bug poison.
Yeah. Lantern might give you some trouble. You still have Beedrill and you still have Vigoroth, but not having like that Venusaur is just so, or like that grass type is just so essential.
Mm-hmm.
You start to run in some trouble with like Lantern, and not having a hard counter to Lantern is a big, in my opinion, it's kind of a no-no because it's so common.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think grass. It just I didn't initially have it as essential. In some of the early roster archetypes, but the more I kind of looked at it, it just kind of felt like I couldn't get away from not having grass because of Lantern and then a couple of other unique team building considerations. It just seemed like you always needed that grass poison in there.
Yeah, I kind of feel that same way. Yeah, Lantern, not having like I mean, Vigoroth is a good counter to Lantern, but the thing about Vigoroth is you want it to run free and not have like a dedicated role other than like a safe switch or have good coverage against just like a lot of stuff, a closer with a shield advantage, that kind of stuff. So just forcing your Vigoroth into the Lantern counter category kind of I don't want to say makes you predictable because most people will run Vigoroth in their 3 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of boxes Vigoroth in a position where it could otherwise be very roam free. So you have Beedrill, kinda, but Beedrill doesn't always do well against teams that are heavy on like its counters. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we do have a question from Math Magic 10 about a team to be analyzed. So if anyone who's here joining our stream for the first time, how we do this is you do have to join our Discord, and we have a channel called Team Submissions, so hashtag Team Submissions, where you can take a screenshot and then put your team of 6 with the movesets, and then what we do is an hour before the stream starts, we have to organize everything. So if you do submit your teams a little too late, we apologize. We might have to move your team to the next review stream. But for today, Math Magic, we do have some similar teams with the lineup that you have over there. So hopefully you can learn something from the other teams that's being reviewed. But that's the procedure that normally you want to get your team reviewed. So after Theorist 292, we have Tausis Cot. Is that right?
Yeah,
Roger?
Tastus Cot. Yeah,
Cool,
and
cool.
so this is Vigoroth, Pidgeot, Fortress, Wigglytuff, Lantern, Alolan Graveler. So this one is a double electric. That's why it's in this section. But it's also they also are choosing to run both Fortress and normal flying. The difference is this is the one Pidgeot team that we have today, but still interesting doubling up on that category as well as doubling up on the electric category.
And the relevant question was on chat. Shadow Colt 69 asked, is it even viable to run Pidgeot instead of Noctowl? What are some advantages? Man, Pidgeot just has less solid wins across the board, but a slightly better matchup against Vigoroth, and that it can win with certain baits and such. So that's what Pidgeot has going for it, but it is quite frail. So I don't know that you'd necessarily want to be switching in a Pidgeot against a Vigoroth,
Yeah, that Pidgeot Vigoroth matchup is also like really IV dependent. It's just bait dependent. It's just there's just too many. There's too many qualifiers in my mind.
Yeah.
To really warrant running Pidgeot over Noctowl. Noctowl is just strictly better, in my opinion, because the one advantage that Pidgeot does have, it's so IV and bait dependent. You almost just want to toss it out, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of my take on it. And that's if it has the Legacy Wing Attack. If it doesn't have Legacy Wing Attack, it doesn't even get that.
And if you don't lock in a Vigoroth against your Vigoroth, you're in for some serious trouble with an enemy Vigoroth.
Yeah, with this team comp.
Well, yeah. And so with this team comp, and you've seen most other team comps, hopefully, if you've been watching the whole stream, it's that most people bring 2, sometimes 3, and sometimes on top of that, a check to Vigoroth. It's that oppressive. You'd never want to build a team that straight up has no solid counters to Vigoroth and only has maybe like a check.
Yeah.
So this is a big problem. You need to make some swaps and adjust for Vigoroth. And it's not even, like, Pidgeot isn't even the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that you don't have any solid counters to Vigoroth, and even if you were to bring 1, it would probably still be a problem because you would rely on that one almost every time.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can give advice on this team without making just like so many changes that it's
Right.
probably not so recognizable.
So Tristan brings up a great point, and in the chat, and that's double electric and Wigglytuff is just overkill against Noctowl, because you already have Vigoroth. Pretty much every team starts with Vigoroth as a Noctowl counter, and then at least one electric, and so that second electric gives you a little bit more deterrent against opposing Noctowls, or go Wigglytuff. But I think double electric and Wigglytuff, I think he's totally right. It's just you're basically having too many targets for Vigoroth now, because you're trying, I suppose, trying to discourage Noctowl, but really just making yourself really weak to Vigoroth. Vigoroth against this team just looks great. I mean, like, why would you not just bring Vigoroth every time? Potentially even like safe switching, using it as a safe switch. I just, if you were running this team, you would almost be forced to either lead Vigoroth or Wigglytuff and always have one in the back and just hope that you can match it up with the opposing Vigoroth.
I'd basically be leading something other than Vigoroth and switching in Vigoroth. Yeah, that's how I would play against this team, and I'd be honestly in a good spot most of the time.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, if you led a Vigoroth counter for their Vigoroth lead, and then you had Vigoroth in the back, in case their in case your Vig counter loses to whatever they lead, you bring in Vigoroth, they are forced to switch, and by that point you have 2 or 3 counters advantage. This is a major problem.
Yeah. So Tristan again, with and I feel the same way. I think Grass Poison's the appropriate lead against this team because it beats
Yep.
4 out of 6, and like I mentioned before, they're almost forced to either lead Vigoroth or Wigglytuff to cover your Vigoroth lead.
Yeah.
And so, a Venusaur lead looks great here, and then you just safe switch to Vigoroth if you're in a matchup that you don't like, and they really don't have a great answer for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, what's next?
yeah. So next is Timbayo. I guess that's how you say it.
Tembiyo?
Tambio. I don't know.
I've been saying Tembiyo, but maybe
Let's-
I'm wrong.
No, let's go with Tambio.
Okay.
All right, Vigoroth, Noctowl, Heracross, Cradily, Beedrill, and Raichu.
Yeah. Raichu's gone down so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has a good matchup against Lantern, so that's what's going for it. Hopefully you're not using Charm. Don't be swayed by that,
Mhm.
because it's just not that good on Raichu. Cradily is interesting, and it shores up some of those flyer matchups with Stone Edge, and it does okay against some of those electrics with Grass Knot, but it doesn't do awesome against those precisely the electrics that are rising in the meta,
Mm-hmm.
namely the Zone Magneton duo.
Mm-hmm.
So you face a problem against Noctowl because you're forced. I mean, not Noctowl, Wigglytuff, because you're forced to bring Beedrill to deal with it.
Yeah, that's the biggest hole I see too.
Yeah.
Wigglytuff just really goes through this team.
And you cannot pigeonhole a Cradily in a Venusaur slot if that's the attempt in this team.
Mm-hmm.
Cradyly's matchups are just so different, and the only overlap they have is on some of the electrics.
Right.
I think that's about right.
Yep. And Cradily, is able to get that win against Legacy Pidgeot, but it still cannot beat Noctowl, even energy, even shields
Right.
with that Stone Edge. Noctowl
Right.
is just too bulky. And so, I just don't see Cradily being worth running here.
A lot of adjustments, in my opinion, would need to be made, and I don't want to. Tembiyo, I think you're a regular here, and your matchup's okay as far as I know. So I think this team might need to go back to the drawing board to deal with Wigglytuff, and then come back, because there's so many unique picks in Heracross, Cradily, and Raichu here.
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed to say okay, drop this one,
Right.
because it might be part of the personality that you're trying to develop with this team.
Well, that, and there's a chance that this team might have been submitted prior to the update, because
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I was
that's
gonna
true.
say there were a couple. That
there were a
at the
couple
top.
that were early.
Yeah.
But I thought about not reviewing them at all, and that didn't seem right.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Yeah,
it's
we
good-
could just
you can
roast
see-
them
you
as
can
if it's
definitely
their
see-
negligence.
Yeah. But you guys can definitely see the way that people build their teams has a huge change after Charm. It's very clear.
Some of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
some
I
of
didn't
them.
even mention this to the other guys before, but they were already calling out on the Charm weakness.
Yeah.
It
For
shows.
sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it really emphasizes. I think we've had a couple that snuck in here that were pre-charm entries, but I
But
think
this
it
one
really,
really shows, yeah.
yeah, it really highlights how much Wigglytuff has just flipped, that roster archetype, and the meta on its head.
And hence required you guys to write up an entire update to it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we
Yeah.
have 2 more teams to go, and one thing that I want to mention before we go to the last 2 teams is that we will be continuing the stream with battling using some of the teams that we were reviewing tonight. So if you
Okay.
guys remember any teams that you saw earlier that you were curious at how they play out, think about it and remember it, and maybe you can post some of the teams that you were interested to see on stream in the chat, and then we'll get to you after we finish the last two teams, including, and the last category, by the way, are the most bizarre ones where Vigoroth doesn't even show up. So let's take a look. Jalapeno Gouda.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I mean, we have.
Oh, could you before we go into
Uh-huh.
this team, could one of you guys ping GBOF Church 816? He asked to be pinged.
Yes.
For
He's
his
actually
Steam review?
here in Twitch, I believe, because he just entered the giveaway. Speaking of the
Oh, awesome.
giveaway, if anyone's on Twitch and YouTube who still doesn't know about it, make sure to hit the follow button on Twitch and subscription on YouTube, and you have a chance to enter our $25 gift card giveaway.
Okay, awesome. And so are we letting him come in and talk about his team, or is he going to ask his questions
Oh,
via
yeah.
Twitch?
So, GBO Church, I see you were on Twitch chat earlier, but if you are interested in hopping on to the voice channel, you can wait in the holding room voice channel, and we'll drag you in once
Yeah.
we're on your team.
So if someone can just add him, I
Perfect.
wanted to make
I
sure
will do
because I
that.
remembered that earlier.
I will do
Okay,
that,
so
and then you guys can jump into this team.
awesome. So Jalapeno Gouda, go.
Yeah, so I mean, here we have Kangaskhan in that Vigoroth spot, and then otherwise it's a pretty meta team, honestly. You have Noctowl Fortress, which is a little, doubling up on that, hard grass wall role is definitely viable because they have enough differences. Then you have the Grass Poison and Victory Bell and Vespi Queen and Lantern. So a mostly meta lineup otherwise.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the one person in the chat mentioned about trying to substitute Vigoroth with Kangaskhan. It's not going to happen. Power Up Punch is a great move, but its fast moves are garbage. Just Mud Slap and Low Kick.
yeah.
It's just not good. I don't know how else to say it. And you're not gonna be able to pigeonhole a Kangaskhan into the Vigoroth slot. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, and Vigoroth, is just too good with that counter body slam combination. You're not going to be able to replace that. And Power Up Punch is definitely a good move, but another reason why Power Up Punch is so good is because it boosts that counter damage with a lot of those Power Up Punch users. And Low Kick is just such a bad move that you're not really gaining anything. You're not getting to Power Up Punch fast enough like you can with say a Mudshot Poliwrath to really even boost the Power Up Punch. And the Low Kick is not going to do much damage from that boost either.
It's just that's just a big problem. This team works with Vigoroth. It doesn't. Well, I don't want to say you can't win, right? Because it's basically with this team. If the flex of Kangaskhan is so important to you, then you're probably just sort of acknowledging that you're not going to use it, and relying much more on the other 5 on your team. But at that point, might as well just bring Vigoroth and bench it and see how you do without using it once.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the recommendation. I don't want to dissect this team too much because I think the easy, and the obvious recommendation is to just add Vigoroth in there, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry for the roast, but it's in order. Kangaskhan. There was some talk about it very early on, and it was very early dismissed, and it hasn't performed well in the meta. And I mean, you'd see it perform really well in Australia, and it hasn't. And it's just not a great pick, unfortunately. Hopefully, Kangaskhan gets better fast moves in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. And hopefully you're able to find a Vigoroth, from trade with the recent community day or something like that. I'm not sure if it was just sort of trying to get that flex in there or not, but you know, if you're also worried about IVs, definitely a bad IV Vigoroth is going to perform better than a PvP perfect Kangaskhan. Okay, cool. And then last is GBOF Church 816,
And he's ready to join us in voice chat. So
cool.
Awesome.
yeah.
So what's your team, or what's his team, Justin?
So there's another team without Vigoroth, huh?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
Heracross in place of Vigoroth, and then doubling up on that grass wall roll with Noctowl and Fortress, and then Wigglytuff, Venusaur, and Alolan Graveler. Is there anything you wanted to sort of reference about your team, during the, like, what you were thinking?
Church, are you there?
Are you able to unmute yourself or? There you go.
Well,
Hey, Church.
hey,
Hey.
how y'all doing, man? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Hey.
Well, what it stems from is I actually play out
Fever.
of Temple. No, I
Oh.
play out of Temple. It's every day. You know what I'm saying? Like I get good ones. You know what I'm saying? I thought it would just kind of start from that, and especially because of the simple fact that it's the hardest counter to Vigoroth. I agree to counter it, but I think it is the hardest. So I'm just built from that. This week to the flying. Been rocking with a Alolan Graveler pretty much all month. And then just kind of working everything around that. I didn't really start with Fortress. My previous team, I think I had even Masquerade for a period of time. But as would be my last team, I was kind of weak to not with that 2-flyer combination. So even though I didn't really want to run Noctowl, I ended up getting a very elite IV. We're gonna run it with that. Venusaur, even though I'm a Victory Bell player, I kind of base my team on unblockable damage, which would be fast moves. So I normally play with Victory Bell, but Venusaur, it just works better. It's just more effective in my mind. So just kind of putting it together slowly. I was thinking about maybe going with Lantern instead of a Alolan Graveler, and then the Wigglytuff, even though Vigoroth is obviously the elite, the generalist kind of in the meta. Wigglytuff is an interesting counter. Obviously, Charm is smacking everything. This beam has some kind of unique coverage and can even, force shield or flying Pokemon. So I had a practice cup last weekend, and I went 3-1. So it's not impossible. You know what I mean? So I just have to be very knowledgeable of matchup. Careful.
Yeah, I think your logic is interesting. I like that you like to run like off meta stuff, or like off meta team comps at the very least.
I try to run it to a limit. Like I try to go as off
Yeah.
meta as possible, but I don't go too far because
Might
meta
I
is meta for a reason.
suggest dropping Noctowl here and putting like a Venomoth or like a Beedrill, maybe?
That's actually what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
I was thinking
So if
about
Beedrill
for Beedrill.
might shore up that Lantern matchup, which
Right,
you have
yeah.
Venusaur for, and you have some like softer counters there too, and it gives you just like another option against Vigoroth, I suppose.
Right.
And there's like a little bit of overlap there with that Fortress Graveler combo with Noctowl. It just seems like it's ripe for dropping Noctowl. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of overlap there, like you said. So you could definitely, potentially drop Noctowl and then lean, more heavily on Fortress, which I think is a great pick. In this new meta. Was the intent to bring Heracross or to not bring Vigoroth, I guess?
Well, it's been a little hard to try and find a Vigoroth. I have one that's pretty decent. I could run it if I wanted
Gotcha.
to. And that was was going to be my if it turns out in some of these practice cups it's not doing well, just drop the Vigoroth, and then it's kind of But just a Heracross enthusiast, I think even if it's just a roster check, obviously Charm dropped it crazy. I've inquired you guys help me out, so
Yeah.
you know
One comment
maybe switching
that,
for Lantern, but for the Graveler for Lantern, just
Yeah.
to keep that water gun pressure. But
one comment from Tristan was that, he's right, dropping Noctowl for Beedrill in favor of Beedrill would make you a little bit weak to Noctowl. You'd
exactly,
be relying on that Wigglytuff and Graveler.
Right.
You have options, but
Which is why I was kind of getting at the whole Vigoroth, point, because I think if you put Vigoroth in that spot, then you cover Lantern and Noctowl. You know what I mean?
right.
So I think you could definitely have Heracross in a team, and in a balanced team, 6. I don't think you necessarily have to have Heracross replace Vigoroth. My main thing is I can't see myself not bringing Vigoroth because it's a good safe switch in so many situations. You'll definitely come across a team in your tournament where they're relying a little bit more heavily on like Venusaur and maybe like a Venomoth or a Beedrill, which can switch in a little late to Vigoroth and still win in that lead scenario, but definitely not as late as like a Heracross or Vespiquen can, and still pull that out. And so you have to be, I don't know, Vigoroth is just a great contingency. If you get in a bad lead, it's really nice to have that option in at least some of your team comps.
It's just the versatility of a psychic like Nuke and Mega Horn combat for all the normal situations, because it's like he forces a shield. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether you like, you know what I mean? So just kind of that strategy. Also, just like even the aggressive energy farm and maybe like a sack switch. To be honest, the most common line that I've been running with this team for Fortress Noctowl in whatever order I'm feeling based on the team.
Right.
Going like it's almost like they're more fun. So it's just easier to kind of play the other end and countering the Vigoroth. And then Noctowl is just reigns supreme over bug above flying.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my recommendation. It looks like Tristan, sort of agrees that, maybe try to run Vigoroth and Heracross together. Because I agree with you. I think Heracross brings a lot to the table. And I don't think it's completely, omitted from the meta just because of Wigglytuff. I think, being able to beat, a lot of those electrics, being able to beat Venusaur, which is the predominant grass type,
Right.
and then be a hard counter to Vigoroth, that's a lot of good things that it's bringing to your team. I think, I think maybe putting Vigoroth in that Noctowl spot, helps you in that Lantern matchup, keeps you well covered against other things as well. And I think the only thing you might have to worry about then at that point is, you're a little weak to a Beedrill or a Venomoth, but you still have Fortress and then a Lowland Graveler, which are just going to, really, threaten those with that rock throw damage, for example. So I think Vigoroth for Noctowl might be a good move. And, definitely you can still have Heracross in that team. And there's some good cores there too.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll admit, obviously, when I play with Vigoroth, I'm getting more wins. But the wins that I'm getting with the Heracross are just so unique. And it's really, you know what I'm saying? I pride myself on being kind of a niche player. So, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of following Caleb's, lead and just being like, what's the and I just want to counter that with a couple things. And
I think winning with a Heracross team would definitely be unique in this meta. I don't think a lot of people are going to be running Heracross. I think people are going to be scared away from, by that potential charm damage. But I think Vigoroth for Noctowl is good. I wouldn't put Vigoroth in the Fortress spot because that makes you a little too weak to Wigglytuff.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
cool.
I'll let you guys know how I go. I actually have a Jungle Cup practice in 30. So I go.
Nice. Good luck with it,
Awesome.
Church.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
good
you.
luck.
Yeah, I appreciate it, fellas, always.
That's
And that
perfect.
was the last team.
Yeah.
What's the next sequence of events, Quartz? How do you
So
want
the
us
next
to
sequence of
handle
events is Scotty will be trying to connect with Justin's team viewer so we can do some live battles. So I'm
Okay.
going to be asking for you guys on the chat right now, both YouTube and Twitch, to let me know what kind of team combinations you guys want to see in battle. I can put up a poll up and we can vote and see which one exactly we want to start running first and so on. But while they're setting up, I can answer a few questions. Will Kun is saying, where can I submit teams? Kun see it in the Discord. So if you do not see all the channels, it could be that you haven't submitted your screenshot of your profile to get a team assigned. So
Mhm.
Once you do see all the channels, the the team submissions one should be visible for you.
So the teams, I'm understanding that Polymers is going to be playing.
Yes, he'll try and run the teams that are being voted on, but if he doesn't have the combinations for it, either you and I could do it as well.
So how about we do this? How about Polymers chooses 3 teams he likes that he can run,
Okay.
and then the chat votes.
Okay.
Does that sound
That could be
pretty good?
a way to do it as well.
Yeah, and we can narrow it down like that instead of
Yeah.
just voting for like
For random ones.
30
Okay.
options.
That makes sense. So let's wait for Tristan. Are you good to go, Justin?
Yeah, I'm on. Scotty and I are synced up.
Perfect.
So just pick a couple of teams that I like.
Pick like 2 or 3 teams that you can run of what you have,
Okay.
and try to not make them identical.
Yeah.
and
And
Scotty.
then
yeah.
the chat will decide.
Cool.
Can you include Wigglytuff in one of them?
Definitely. I'll run
Okay.
Carefree's team.
Okay.
So Scotty, is it possible for you to use the team reviews? That's okay. I was about to just use the drag down to get one of the teams that are being reviewed. But this is okay.
You sure that's that? You're happy with that? I can change it if you want me to.
Yeah, if you could, because we're going to be we don't have to manually change all the 6 every single time he battles. This way we can just drag down a team that is being reviewed earlier, and wait, what?
Okay.
Right, so let me do it quickly.
It's okay, Scotty.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. So Carefree's team. What
Yeah.
other 2 teams?
Braj SF
Okay.
and this is hard, man. Without a legacy mod,
A
and
lot
without
of teams seems to be doing.
without Vespiquen, I'm a little handcuffed.
That's okay.
How
You pick
dare
the ones
you.
that doesn't have the. Because yeah, I have SP and I think AJ has it as well.
Yeah.
How dare you? New streamer, please. We're getting a boot from you. Spark the Spencer. Wow, no legacy moth. New streamer, please. Putting you on blast.
That's hilarious.
Do you have Wigglytuff,
not-
Masquerain? Ultimate Mayhem's team could be an option as well.
I could run Scyther in place of Masquerain.
Or do you have Ye Olde English's team?
What about
Well-
Church's team with Heracross?
I actually don't have it.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's see how that goes.
Which
I
one?
like
The
that.
church one?
Yeah, good call, AJ.
Okay.
Okay. So we have Carefree's team Braj SF and
Uh,
Church's
and
team.
I will show them on screen as well. So
Mhm. So I guess what we'll do is we'll vote. We'll put it up to a vote, and Quartz will show all of those.
the poll should
While
be
he's
on
pulling
now.
those up, I will rattle them out. Carefree's team is Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, Graveler. Once again, that's Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, and Alolan Graveler. Braj SF is running Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Victreebel, Lantern, Alolan Graveler. Once again, that's Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, and then he's got Victreebel, Lantern, and Alolan Graveler. And then Church's team, which we talked about there at the end, is Heracross, Noctowl, Fortress, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, Alolan Graveler. So we're going to put those teams up for a vote. And you guys get to decide which one will come first and which one our streamer will Polymers will be using against these remote battles. So vote 1 for Carefree, vote 2 for Braj SF, and vote 3 for Church. And you can just put the number that you prefer in the chat, and we'll see who ends up getting the first one. So we got to vote for 3. We got to vote for Church. I think a lot of people are going to be just interested to see how that plays out and try to punish you for not having a Venomoth. Oh, we got a 1. We got another 3 in the chat. So Carefree's team, and looks like
Perfect. Now we are able to pull the teams up as well.
Barrage SF. So I think you're pulling up those teams right now.
Yes. So I can't
We're
show
just
them
gonna
all
cycle
at the
through
same
them?
time, but I will cycle between them.
Sure.
Yes.
So
we,
right now, Church is in the lead. Once again, Heracross, Noctowl, Fortress, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, and Alolan Graveler, a non-Vigoroth team. It's pretty unique. Doing quite well. It just got a few votes. Is Carefree's team. Once again, Carefree is running Vigoroth, Noctowl, Beedrill, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, and Alolan Graveler. Very solid lineup. We recommended Venomoth, but Polymers doesn't have it, so we get to punish him and roast him as we go through this. So Braj SF hasn't gotten any votes yet. I'm not seeing much love for Braj. And he is running Victreebel as opposed to Venusaur, which has been Polymer's choice. So if you want to see a more seasoned Victreebel user, then vote 2 for Braj SF. JRE Seawolf dropping a vote for the off-meta team.
nothing surprising there.
He's upset, and he wants to punish you. He's upset that we trashed Cradily today. If you wanted Cradily to be meta, you should have run it yourself, buddy. Okay, so what else do we have?
We'll leave the poll up for another minute, but it's neck and neck right now between 1 and 3.
It's definitely close, and it seems like 2 is getting a few votes. Braj SF just got a few votes. I think we're seeing some love for Victreebel, but I don't think he's gonna make a comeback, you guys. I think it's really between Church and Carefree. Once again,
Scotty just voted for 3 as well.
Yeah, nice. I'm tempted to vote as well, but I'll only vote if there's a tiebreaker. So that's how we'll do. Yeah,
that's how
you'll
do it.
Yeah. So if it comes down to a tie, don't let it get down to a tie because you don't want me to decide. But yeah, that's how I'm gonna do it. Okay, so it's just the privilege of a commentator.
Yeah. And I think it's being confirmed now. We can close the poll. I think number 3 has won this one quite handily.
Okay.
Cool.
Number 3. Okay, you're getting punished.
So
You're getting punished with the off meta. Heracross, Noctowl, Fortress, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, Alolan Graveler from one of our longtime Patreon supporters, longtime member of the Discord. Church816 gets to have his team
And in terms
up
of
on
who you're
screen.
battling, I guess we can just go with the second most popular team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
Okay,
yeah.
would you like to battle, or should I send you a battle, Justin?
Yes, send me one.
Okay,
Maybe
so
maybe let AJ shoutcast.
Okay.
yeah,
I'll-
so we have to jump into a different call real quick, right? So that I can watch the
The screen share.
screen share.
Yes, let's do
Okay.
that.
All right, just gonna take a sec. Mic
Hello?
check.
We're good,
Hey.
except that the video from
Right,
Just-
because I accepted the call. Should I be here? I should, right?
Yeah, that's fine if you're here.
Okay, so we'll just have to reconnect then, because
Okay.
it comes through as a call and disconnects me.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of lag here, though.
Why FaceTime? Fuck off.
Calm down, Brandon. We're live now. Let's
Sorry.
let's see if we can connect Justin's phone real quick.
Oops. I just answered the call, whatever that was, didn't realize it was.
You just watched your review and they were right. It was pre-Wiggles. Yeah. So the very cool thing is that we noticed, even though we didn't tell the reviewers, which were the teams that were Wigglytuff, pre-Charm. It really shows, right? It really shows. So Chief, I'm sure you'll pick up a couple of information from tonight's stream, and you'll decide on the new 6 that is going to be more capable to deal with the Charm meta. So we'll close the poll right now. We're going to go ahead and have Justin run GBO Church's team, and then on my side, I'll be running the second most popular team from Carefree. So quickly show Carefree's team for you guys to see. AJ, you're the
One, two,
you're going to
three.
be commentating, right? So is it
I am
against the rules
commentating.
if I ask for advice?
Maybe hopefully put a little less strain on my connection. Can you guys hear me okay?
I think you sound okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you. You guys hear me?
Okay, because the screen is still loading for Scotty's.
Ah.
Yeah, sorry, Scotty. That's because my phone went to standby. That's my fault.
But yeah, if anyone here who's just joining stream and missed out, we are doing our giveaway today, both on YouTube and Twitch. So !, enter. We'll do a couple of battles with the teams that were submitted on stream today. And then we'll close the stream with announcing the winners. So seems like AJ is trying to reconnect.
If you want, I'm available right now.
Oh, if you want
One
to
or
do, oh
two.
yeah, if you're going to be around to do some battles, we have more options as well. Because
I
you
mean,
do-
yeah, I just have I have my ranger battle in about 15-20 minutes, but aside from that, I'm pretty free.
in that case, if you want to send, if you want to start the battle, then go ahead and send the battle to Justin. And then your team will be Vigoroth, Noctile, Beedrill, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, and Alolan Graveler.
Oh no, I meant for the commentating, not the battle.
Oh, you wanted to do the commentating? Okay, that's okay too.
Because you said AJ cut out.
Yeah. So yeah, Carefree's team. Interesting to see how that goes. You back, AJ? Can you hear us, AJ?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm watching the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little small, but I think I'll be able to see it okay.
Ooh, Spark, giving away your strats, huh? Which team exactly? The one that I'm running? The one that Carefree's posted? Interesting. I might not even have everything Carefree has here, so it's gonna be. I'm gonna be crippling myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you able to see the
So
screen from Scotty's side?
Scotty just DM'd me, and I'm making it public. He says, "Sorry, I can't make it bigger." So I'll just let you guys interpret that how you want. Polymers, let's
Oh,
just
come
test
on.
how quick
And
I'm seeing this.
Scotty, by the way, you can
Click
move
on your
the cropping is a little off on the screen, by the way.
click on your nummel. So I just saw it now. I'm seeing nummel. Just throw a Pokeball at it, and then Pokeball is being thrown. Then it goes out. He's going for the
The
quick
switch.
swap. Okay, so what did was that pretty much on point as far as timing goes?
Justin, are
Okay.
you there?
Yeah. Are
He
you
was
asking
if
me?
it was real time for you.
Oh,
Okay, all right.
It was a
Just
slight
just
lag,
testing
but
the
not too bad.
just
Okay.
testing the time, making sure there's not too much latency.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. In that case,
Okay.
Justin, I'll be sending you a battle right now, and then we can
Cool.
test this out.
Yeah, Tristan said that was good on chat.
Okay.
Sorry,
Awesome.
I assumed you were asking someone else because it's going to be a little bit of latency.
Right.
From
Yeah,
when
we're
I
gonna have some
click.
bias. Cool. And you're being roasted. You're getting roasted for not evolving the nummel.
I'm not even sure I caught it.
Yeah, it might have run away. In which case, it's a tragedy that you didn't Golden Raz with Ultra Ball.
Camerup's the best Pokemon ever. Don't you know?
Camerupt is the
Yep.
best Pokemon ever.
Second best to Giraffe.
Alright, so we are testing out this non-Vigoroth team. Heracross, Noctowl, Fortress, Venusaur, Wigglytuff, and Alolan Graveler. We're seeing one of the pitfalls of many trainers is that he's not name coding these, so he's having to shuffle through all of his collection. Nobody cares about your collection. Stop flexing. Just get right to those picks, Justin. So let's see. Someone is mentioning Giraffric, and I'm just gonna say yes. You're right. How dare you? How dare you even bring up that name? That is a trash can pick. I'm just glad that Dunsparce has been even less popular as of recent. Almost nobody is mentioning Dunsparce anymore, with Wigglytuff in the forefront. Let's see. What is he going to choose? So I'm sure at this point, Polymers is probably thinking, "Damn, I really miss Vigoroth as that safe switch." Because
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
many times when we
Oh,
build
man.
these teams, we lead something that counters Vigoroth, or maybe counters something else that we're seeing have favorable matchups against the rest of the team, and then having Vigoroth in the back. But not having Vigoroth kind of forces you to reevaluate your tactics. So we'll see what Quirts has to bring against this non-Vigoroth team. I suspect. Well, I don't know if I'd bring a Vigoroth against this. In this particular case, that's something that's unique about this team is that it's okay to not bring a Vigoroth against it. So I suppose you have more options in that case. So anyway, we're starting off with Venusaur against Venusaur. There's the mirror match. We're expecting a lot of piggybacks here. See who gets that Frenzy Plant bait. If you get a Frenzy Plant bait, this will be a very, very interesting match and put you ahead. But you kind of have to both win the bait and also read the bait on your opponent. So he goes for, let's see, I'm not going to give it away because Quartz is also listening on stream. He goes for the Frenzy Plant and he calls his bait. So let's see what Quartz has coming in. He goes for the Shield, and sure enough, out comes, I wasn't able to see that. I think it was a Sludge Bomb. There's a little bit of a latency there. So another Sludge Bomb, it gets blocked. The second shield is at play here. And another Sludge Bomb goes out and he shields. So this is basically just a race to who gets that Sludge Bomb out first. Another Sludge Bomb from our streamer here comes out and meets that Venusaur. All shields are down at this point. We're fully expecting another Sludge Bomb here, which will take out that Venusaur. So now, will almost take out that Venusaur. Now, Quartz is in a very favorable spot. That Venusaur is full of energy, and Quartz has no real good answers to that Venusaur. So fully expect that Heracross to come out, and what's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. That Sludge Bomb is going to do just enough damage to just basically neutralize Heracross as a threat. So he really does kind of need that energy, and so sure enough, it was able to take it with counters. Either Mega Horn or Close Combat would come out, but the thing is, Noctowl is able to double super effective against that very frail Heracross, so it's not able to get that close combat in time. So now Noctowl has a couple wing attacks in it as an advantage. He just is able to spam those sky attacks against a Wigglytuff. Goes for the immediate switch. Pretty smart here. Just conserve your Noctowl as much as possible. But at this point, this is unrecoverable for Quartz. That losing that lead matchup against Venusaur with no shield left to play, with something like Heracross and Wigglytuff, they both need shields. So that's GG for Quartz. Round 1 is not proving favorable for this Vigoroth-less team. So what do you guys think so far? I'm thinking, Justin, you kind of misplayed there. I don't know if you misplayed it. It's just that at that point you were forced in a bad situation.
I just didn't get the bait. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
I should have double frenzied it, after that. Because I
Yeah.
felt like I could almost get to that frenzy plant. I'm not sure if it would have been quite enough to KO him, but
Yeah. It definitely hinged on that frenzy plant being blocked. And
Right.
yeah. And so like my screen, Scotty, is like so blurry that I couldn't even see. The only reason I knew it was like Frenzy Plant or Sludge Bomb is because it was like purple coming out. So, but I couldn't like fully read the teams or the moves.
That's all good.
So we'll see.
see if I can.
It could just be my connection. Anyway, we'll work with this. This is fine.
I've locked my team, by the way, Justin.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Tristan is calling me out. He's like, he's going to bait for sure.
Quartz is gonna bait, and well, that's kind of when you get two opponents that know each other well, that they played against each other, and then you have someone commentating on their match while both of them are listening. There's just so many like different elements that are going on that it's so far removed from what a real tournament would be like. I mean, could you guys imagine that like this was a real setup for a tournament, and then someone is just like shoutcasting in your faces? Is he gonna shield? Maybe not. This matchup really depends on baits, and then you're really tempted to bait, but you think that other person is definitely gonna bait.
It's more than that too, because we're kind of in the same voice chat with the opponent as well and the commentator.
Right. Right. But
It's
I'm
very
saying
odd.
like if the commentator was watching both screens and in your face, that would be interesting to say the
It's not a
least.
good lead for you, bro.
Okay, so Heracross
jeez.
lead against a
Oh, man.
Noctowl, insta switch. There's no way any Heracross user would want to stay there.
It's like he's
So I
taking some
think he's
time.
getting stuck there a little bit. Goes for the Fortress, which is still going to lose against Noctowl, hoping to maybe burn out that Noctowl a little bit, as opposed to maybe switching to something safer. Or maybe he doesn't have any good answers to Noctowl. I won't give away all his cards. So he goes for the Sky Attack against him. At this point, Noctowl is just able to spam Sky Attacks against this Fortress, burning his shields, unless he wants to maybe get in those charge moves in. And Noctowl is able to tank them fairly well, expecting those heavy slams. And I don't think it'll be able to get that. Oh, it is able to get that heavy slam in. Noctowl goes for the farms there. And he's able to get that heavy slam, and it does a ton of damage to Noctowl. So I'm kind of surprised he didn't go for any shields there. Probably a misplay, but we'll soon be able to see whether Vigoroth is able to shore up this matchup, get a ton of energy and shield advantage here. So in comes Heracross, and immediately he switches to Venusaur. So this is not a horrible matchup for Heracross, but he is forced to shield. The thing is, though, Mega Horn does a ton of damage to Venusaur, but he's just going to block it, and Frenzy Plant or Sludge Bomb are going to charge faster, while Counter is not doing a whole lot of damage. So we'll see what he ends up doing. I mean, he's just fully expecting a Sludge Bomb here. It's just going to take out that Heracross. And sure enough, now Venusaur has a little bit of energy, and he's got a very favorable matchup against Wigglytuff. Again, this is a situation where, you know, that Vigoroth might have come in really nicely to switch in against that Noctowl, right? Because he would have been able to get a couple counters, maybe not do so poorly against Venusaur. So it's one of those situations where, yeah, I don't know. I think that the non-Vigoroth team has to be a very good reader of what the other guy's going to lead. So
Yeah,
losing the lead
I'd
is
agree with
very
that.
punishes
Yeah,
you
it's
so hard.
tricky.
I got no safe switch options here.
Yeah. Yeah, because Wigglytuff doesn't fully function as that safe switch
Yeah.
in that it gets walled by certain things. Yeah, so Choose to Master, you just logged on. Polymer's up is getting destroyed right now by our friendly neighbor Quartz. And Polymers is forced to run the team that's on screen right now, which is one of the submissions from today. And that's the one that the stream voted on.
Am I restricted to
I
be
supposed
using
to
this
punish
team
him.
as well?
What was that?
Am I restricted to only use Carefree's team as well, or should I change it up to test the church team?
Well, I think to map it on to the most realistic, tournament, you kind of want to know what the other guy has.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just sort of blindly.
How about if I
Using
switch
whatever
over to the other? So the thing is, because I don't have all the
Barrage?
mons from Carefree's team, I'm kind of
Okay.
restricted to very limited. But if I do,
Sounds-
just
So
Could you tell me which ones you have, Quartz? That would be tremendously
Yeah.
helpful.
no, I'll show
Yeah.
you. I'll let you know. By the way, I closed the
Do
chat
this.
challenge, so if you want to send
let's
it,
do this.
Yeah.
Quartz, pick a team you like. If you don't
Mhm.
have all of the team from Carefree,
okay.
probably
and
Barrage
we run a vote
SF.
for that too,
yeah.
or I can just run Tristan.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, the vote's just going to take up too much time, so just
Okay.
pick a team that you really like
Cool.
and that you have,
I'll be
and
running
then
Tristan's
submit
team
that.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
cool.
So I'll
I was
I'll show
totally
you
kidding.
Tristan's-
I was totally kidding, Quartz, by the way. Like,
No,
I
it's-
just needed that extra help. You know, tell me
I'll
which
let you-
4 you're limited to.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. It was actually limited 3.
Oh, it's just the same 3.
I'll send you the
So
chat, by
that's-
the way.
That's interesting how he's limited to 3 and he's just able to.
Those
really
3 are very
capitalize on
common.
this.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so remind us what team is
Sure.
Tristan running.
So Tristan's team is actually on screen right now, but I'll read it out. It's going to be Vigoroth, Venomoth, Vespiquen, Venusaur, Lantern, and Magnezone.
Okay,
So yes.
cool. Okay, so off the bat here, again, we're running Heracross, Noctowl, we're running Fortress, Wigglytuff, a Alolan Graveler, I think, and what was that last spot? Venusaur? Yeah, it was Venusaur.
Yes,
For
Church.
yeah, the team that Polymers has to run, which is Church's team.
And I
He's
locked in
going to
my
be doing.
You have your team. Okay. Sorry, I was trying to find it in the spreadsheet. Cool.
Sure.
So, some favorable matchups here. Well, it's the interesting thing here is that if you get into a lead, a positive lead, at least you have good answers to everything on his team for the most part.
Not having a Noctowl is, you'd have to rely on that Venomoth a lot more, I guess.
Yeah. I'm kind of expecting Magnezone here. Maybe not as a lead, but I think a Magnezone has pretty good matchups here against this team.
Are you getting you got in the challenge, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
he's
just rematch?
I didn't
I
hit
can
rematch.
hear him. I'm in
Oh,
Richmond
okay,
right
sorry.
now. I'm in Richmond right now. Polymers is in Atlanta, and I can hear his head scratching all the way from here. He's just mustache twirling, head scratching right now, thinking, how am I gonna run against this team?
So Justin, did you leave and then come back in, or are you gonna set the team first and then?
I'm just gonna set the team first. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. We're just refreshing the match here, and it seemed like it didn't go through.
Yeah.
No,
you
it's
might have to
coming through
reset.
now. It'll be there in a sec. Yeah.
Well, the menu popped up, but then he clicked.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
battle.
there you go.
There we go.
I see.
Probably like this the first one didn't go through when I sent the first time.
Okay, so we are matched up here. Let's see what he has to bring against Fortress, and it's Magnezone. Not a good matchup for Fortress. We're gonna see again being punished by the lead. See if we can recover from that matchup. So it looks like Fortress is either going to be ready to switch or just getting in, accepting that bad matchup and playing it out. We'll see whether it goes Heavy Slam, Rock Tomb, or Earthquake. It might go for the bait, it might go for the Earthquake and annihilate Magnezone. And Quartz very accurately reads his bluff. Very risky move on Quartz's part because he did have Earthquake ready to go. Had he used Earthquake, it would have been a really not so great situation for Quartz in that lead. So he goes for the Wild Charge spam at this point. He's able to do that. Bug Bite isn't doing a whole lot, but it is chipping away at that Magnezone. So it is able to take out that Magnezone since it didn't want to use too many shields against his opponent. So I am getting a little bit of delay here. Comes in with Vespiquen. Good amount of energy on that Fortress. He's able to just spam Heavy Slam. This is a situation where you kind of would want to have Rock Tomb, but at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice all the great coverage with, Rock Tomb or with Earthquake Heavy Slam, which at this point Quartz knows that Polymers has. So, chipping away with those X scissors, not a horrible place to be in for Quartz. He's got a bit of energy on that Vespiquen, even though it is pretty much used up. Noctowl is a very favorable matchup against Vespiquen. Nothing it really has other than Power Gem is going to hit it very hard, and sure enough, he reads it. He goes for the Power Gem against Noctowl. So at this point, I'd do the same thing as Quartz is doing, just farm up some energy, and he goes for the charge move. So let's see what comes in. Wing attack against that Venusaur. It's a great matchup for Noctowl. The thing is, though, Noctowl is not very high on energy, so he goes for the switch. Not the worst matchup for Heracross. He's going to be forced to shield against that Mega Horn coming in. And he's going to be able to get it out before Venusaur gets that charge move. So sure enough, there goes the Mega Horn. Fully expecting this. Oh, is he out of shields? I might have miscounted there.
Yeah,
he's out of shields. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, my guys, my blunder. I'm the screen that I'm seeing is kind of small, and if I were to be watching off the Twitch screen, I would be able to see. Okay, so sure enough, solid win for Justin and a not so great lead. I think that was a good play, just riding out that Noctowl as opposed to switching and maybe being further behind. I think that was solid. You might have to be resigned to do that a lot with those bad leads. It is an interesting stress test to this team composition. Not having that Vigoroth to play around with is very, very interesting.
I'm locked in again.
Okay, cool.
So we'll see whether Justin is finally able to read a good lead against Quartz. Quartz has been doing really well in reading those leads. We suspect some foul play. Maybe he's being fed information. So finally, we get a Noctowl against Vespiquen. Good matchup for Polymers. We expect either a switch, and sure enough, comes a switch. A Lantern. Good matchup for for Justin at this point. Goes in with his Heracross. This is a pretty even matchup. Heracross tends to win here, but he is forced to shield those Thunderbolts because it's just going to hit so hard against a somewhat frail pick, which is Heracross. But at least he doesn't have to charge all the way up to those close combats. He can use those Mega Horns. If he were running Earthquake, I guess Lantern would still be fearing that. But he's within knockout range with those Mega Horns anyway, so it's normally not going to be useful to run the Earthquake. So he goes for the second Mega Horn. At this point, if Lantern wants to survive this, he's going to have to shield twice, and he goes for the shield just to survive. And we'll see what comes in to answer against this pretty well charged Lantern. So I'm expecting a Thunderbolt here. Sure enough, Fortress goes for the shield. I don't know if that was the right play there, just because if it had been a Hydro Pump, Fortress for sure, wouldn't have wanted to take that. But at this point, Noctowl comes right back in with the Sky Attack and is able to do either a lot of damage. There you go. So he shielded twice earlier, and taking that Vespiquen down quite a few pegs with the Sky Attack. Goes for the Power Gem, is going to do a ton of damage against Noctowl, but at this point, goes for the counter switch. Too little, too late. Very good timing for Quartz. Venusaur is going to just get nuked by Noctowl, which has very positive matchups against his team. Losing that Lantern early on was not a good situation to be in. So in comes Fortress and is able to knock out Vespiquen. GG in favor for our streamer, Polymers. So, good lead, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, not bad.
I wonder if there's a way to recover from a good lead against a team comp like this, with just like harder counters generally to your stuff, right?
Oh yeah, like if I get a good lead, you're kind of in trouble if I pick my team really well.
Yeah, because this team is more stacked on harder counters.
Right.
So yeah. This might be like a way to force yourself to be, really predictive in your leads. I'm not a big fan of that just because there's some luck involved, and what if the other guy just is so random in the way he chooses? Maybe he has his teams pre-selected. It has nothing to do with your lineup at all. So
No, I do. Wait, what?
Not you.
Oh.
Just generally speaking.
Oh, generally.
Like
yeah.
what if,
Yeah. And I have my team knocked again, Justin. So
okay.
we definitely appreciate everyone still chilling with us today. We're going way into the over 2 hours now, and after a few more battles, I think we'll be trying to pull up our winner for the giveaway. So stick around for that, and take it away, AJ.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Fortress against that Vigoroth. Very favorable matchup for Quartz. That Vigoroth is a fresh matchup, is basically able to just farm up that energy. It's going to have to block anything coming in from that Vigoroth. Eventually, someone is going to have to use a charge move. So sure enough, we are expecting those body slams to just roll out with response to those heavy slams. Basically, both of them are just going to have to shield until one lets up those energies. So the thing about Vigoroth, though, is just has so much more energy gain on that Fortress, but it's going to be shy of those 3 body slams fully charged up. So it's able to get one more counter or a couple more counters, and then, sure enough, take away that Fortress. Now you're in a situation where Vigoroth has a decent amount of energy. It's able to use that body slam against Heracross. Heracross will tank that body slam coming in and get up a little bit of energy against whatever comes next. If what comes next is something like a Noctowl, it's going to be bad news for this poor Heracross here. So sure enough, it comes Venusaur. Not a terrible matchup again. It's just going to have to shield that Mega Horn, which is fully expected. And Venusaur was able to get that Frenzy Plant in before. I'm now getting a screen
I think
popped up.
Justin might have got a call or something because the game is freezing up.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, well, looks like Justin got a call from. Let's just all speculate on who he got a call from.
I can
Was it
commentate
his
it for you.
wife? Was it his wife? Was it his job? I don't know.
I can
What,
commentate for you
terminated the
though.
stream?
His Mega Horn went through because I didn't have any shields, so Venusaur
Uh-huh.
went down, and then now
Okay.
Heracross just countered my Magnezone to death. So that was how that one
Yikes.
ended.
Oh man, Heracross closed it out there.
So I got destroyed basically after what you guys saw on screen.
If Heracross lands a charge move, it's so good for it, you know?
Yeah.
It's
So-
rare that it gets 2 though.
Where's Venomoth? I don't have a legacy one, so that was a little more tricky. I could have brought in a non-legacy one, but then it would really show itself very quickly how it's not gonna work the way you would use it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have to connect it back against Scotty. I think this might not be the bad place to call it a night. It's really late for you as well.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
So if you want to go ahead and switch scenes to the Patreon page, I guess, while we do the giveaway.
Yep, 1 second.
All right. So yeah, so if you guys remember, a couple of weeks back we did a giveaway for our 500 followers on Twitch, and Bella Baolam won that giveaway, and he was nice enough to give it back and says, donate it back and give to another winner. So once we hit another milestone on YouTube, we decided we were going to do it again. So that's what this giveaway is for. So it's going to be open for both Twitch and YouTube, as you guys can see the entries coming through both sides earlier. So Scotty, how many people do we have in the giveaway pool?
We have
be,
70.
70 people. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I
Wow.
have to say it's probably on the a little more from the Twitch side, but 70 in total is a pretty good number. So once Scotty ends the giveaway, he has an end button, not cancel by the way, and then you can click on pick a winner. On chat itself, Streamlabs will shout out a winner, I believe.
So
you just pose it?
I'm proverbially getting out of my chair, getting ready to accept the prize.
Did you enter? I didn't even enter. I didn't know we can enter.
No,
What?
I didn't enter.
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
didn't.
getting it anyway.
The winner
Oh,
has
you-
to come and collect it in
Yes,
person
this is-
from England as well, by the way. I don't know if we
You
explained
can
that.
do that. I have access to flight benefits out of pettiness, and that what is it, $25?
$25.
I will do that. I will do that if I win.
iTunes or Google gift card, which we will find a way to get it to you. So if you're a winner here, make sure to contact us. So if the winner is not here on the stream live right now, we'll try to get in touch with them and coordinate a way to do that. And if they don't respond, then we'll have another giveaway for the next stream. So we'll see.
So,
Cool.
Alright.
ready to pick the winner?
Let's do it.
Do we get a drum roll?
It's a good drum roll.
Rafe 4.
This is an awesome drum roll.
Rave 4 has won the winner. Is the winner of the $25 iTunes or gift card. And Rafe is actually here. Wow.
Nice. Congrats.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Rafe.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Rafe,
Nice.
you
Are
can
you on our
donate that
Discord?
gift card to me. I'd gladly accept it.
Rafe, are you on the Discord? And what is your Discord username? If it's the same, it'll be very easy for us to communicate with you. So get in touch with one of the mods, and we will find a way to get it to you. That's pretty cool. Yeah, congratulations, Rafe. Same name. Awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool. It's familiar, this name. We might have reviewed a team in the past before, but
It's possible.
it's possible. Yeah, that's so cool. So we finally have a official winner that we can give out this gift card to, which we're very happy to do that.
Nice.
Giving back to you guys after all the support. And as you guys can see from the names on the screen right now, all the awesome patrons that's continually support. We have different tiers and different rewards to give people who support us. Sometimes we have a private Discord channel, which people there can ask specific questions to our battle analysts. And we have a my head is blanking out. Oh yeah,
Forgot.
head is blank. We have videos. Sorry, we have videos that we record of sometimes from Valor-Ash or other top tier players that we share exclusively for our patrons as well. So all sorts of good rewards there. And once we have our esports jersey and other merchandise, you guys will be getting that as well. Anyway,
Very
this is the end of the stream. I'm going to have Scotty try to give us a raid. Maybe. Do you want to go give Pocket Monster Max, a good buddy of our stream, a raid?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to go on
Yeah. I got it.
OBS actually. So yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks to AJ for doing our team reviews together with Polymers.
Yeah, definitely.
See, we do have a interesting stream planned soon for a Generation 5 run of Black. I think it's Black or White. I can't remember. I downloaded one of it. Just don't remember which one. For us
Right,
to introduce ourselves to the Generation 5 Pokemons.
I'm so excited for this, you guys.
Yeah, that's going to be
You
interesting.
Have no
Like,
idea.
anyone here who hasn't played Gen 5 and want to join in and watch how even like AJ respond to seeing an ice cream Pokemon, that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have zero knowledge of Gen 5 going in.
Mm-hmm.
I had zero knowledge of Gen 4 before
Yeah.
Pokemon Go.
And right at the end of
So-
the stream, Kiang is saying that he wants a Go Stadium jersey. You know, whenever we get it, we will definitely let you know. And thanks for joining us right at the end of the stream, there, Kiang. We really want to thank you one more time. If you if you didn't feel like we're grateful, we are super grateful that you managed to send Zoe 2 dots our way for the awesome stream for freestyle, meta discussions, and team building yesterday. So
Yeah.
thanks again, Kiang, for doing that. Putting a good word for us.
So much in the works
for
for the
sure.
near future. So many cool projects. So much content. So many great ideas.
And Lieutenant
It's gonna
Crunch is
be
saying
really
Gen
exciting.
5 story is amazing. So, I tend to
Nice.
agree with that too. Anyway,
Yes.
we'll call it a stream now. I think Scotty is ready to raid Pocket Monster Max. He's a huge supporter of our channel. He's raided us a couple of times. Really chill dude. So go say hi to him there. Thanks for joining us again tonight, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Bye. You should have clicked on the raid button before. Now you have a 5-second countdown.
The awkward few
Awkward
seconds.
pause. All right, now you have to
Nice.
end the stream
Seems
as well.
like we're